again. Over the middle, end zone, it is! Caught! Touchdown, Trey Palmer!
They wanted to be physical inside. Handling Davis, handling Carter, clean pocket. Palmer is in there for Evans. This is kind of an Evans route when you put it in. And Palmer.
Hey, y'all. Today, of course, it's Matt Rogers on the Honorable Mention podcast. Today, we have OJ Spivey from the Philadelphia Tribune for the post-game show. Week 4 blowout. Well, not as much of a blowout as it looked. If you started just watching the first quarter, you would have thought that it was going to get to 60. The Dolphins got Dolphins poured on another team last year. But, of course, OJ is on the show today. OJ, how's it going?
Pretty good, Matt. Just trying to diagnose it all and also not panic because it is 2-2. It's not, 2-6 or 2-5. So, and again, lot of moving parts. Not a good day, but we'll try to make sense of it.
Absolutely. Things got away from, like I alluded to a second ago, things got away from the Eagles pretty quickly today. They gave up 29 first downs to the 16 that they were able to rack up on the other side. The Eagles and Bucks were both 6 of 13 on third, but the Eagles didn't force the Bucks into third down enough to make it happen. If we're talking about the Eagles defense today, they gave up, close to 450 yards. If you're starting the conversation, OJ, where's the right place to start diagnosing what went wrong on the defense today?
Well, if you're, of course, I'm not a medical professional or anything like that, but there's, you have some ailments or you have a main ailment. Yes. There were probably symptoms that led up to the main ailment, right? So yes. It's a plethora of things, right? The missed tackles, the lack of a pass rush. I was really taken aback by the soft coverage. But this is kind of what the scheme does for the most part, is the soft coverage, and we've seen that for the last 3-4 years or so. And all this, it didn't even occur to me during that time, but all this kind of makes me miss Jonathan Gannon. Right. So
we've missed him for some time, to be honest. I mean, is it time to have that conversation?
He wasn't that bad, was he? So listen, I'm just glad I got to shake his hand when he was on his way out to Arizona after the NFC Championship game. That was something I wasn't expecting. Of course, we're down there in the bowels of the stadium waiting for to go into the locker room, so we see all the players and coaches come in, and I'll have to send you that footage.
Okay.
Jonathan Gannon came around and he just shook all the hands of all the media guys that were down there, and I happened to be one of them. Right, it was right place at the right time. Something you wasn't expecting, but it was. I think it was. Maybe knew he was on his way out the door. Then I don't know, but I just took it as a gesture of gratitude, right? So, and
absolutely,
congrats or whatever. So that was pretty cool and classy on this part, right? But anyway, I digress. But it's the pass rush, lack of pass rush. It's the missed tackles, and it's overall this part of the scheme. Vic, and I said here ad nauseum that Vic Fangio was brought here to restore order, so to speak, and the order's just not there, except for last week against the Saints.
Chaos.
It's it's the same problems. I mean, you do have a much younger defense, short of Brandon Graham, but when you have a number of things, it's just hard to pinpoint one. We didn't hear from Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis today. That's a regression.
Yes,
but,
it is.
I'm not going to give up on them, of course. But it was just a number of things, and they really made Baker Mayfield look efficient, like he was Drew Brees or Tom Brady or somebody like that, and it was really I know you're shorthanded on offense. I know you were, didn't have your guys, but you had to come. I know we'll talk about the offense in a second, but you have to have a better game plan in there. And that's not even Ty Bowles, right? And they have a new offensive coordinator in Tampa.
Yes, they do. Just like we do.
Yeah. So
I don't want to hear really that one because
so
they dialed it up on us today.
Yeah, they really did basically what they wanted to do. And, you're talking about 447 yards of total offense. It's that's just not good for any time. And it just seems like Tampa just has the Eagles' number, except for that one regular season game last year, Monday Night Football.
Yep. With Swift. Swift went off.
Right. I just don't have the answers on defense because, again, it's a number of things, and it's going to be hard to patch it up. And I tweeted earlier today that, you say a lot of things during the game, right? But it's a possibility that Reddick could be here during the bye.
So let's get into that. That was something I wanted to get into later, but let's just do it now. That's too interesting to pass up. So you get to be close to the action, and obviously you don't know this, but what makes you say that? Because you said that to me earlier in the day.
Yeah, because it's the lack of pass rush is just concerning. It's 4 games now, and I mean, Sweat happened to get to the passer today. That might have been more of a coverage sack than anything else.
Absolutely a coverage sack.
But they're just not getting anything.
And the Graham sack, he came unblocked. I mean, good on him for getting there.
Oh, yeah. And, Brandon Graham being the seasoned vet that he is, he's not going to miss that sack, right? So,
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, that was almost like a jailbreak, right? But, yeah, it's just non-existent, and you have to do something. I'm not saying they should panic. It's very important through this bye. I know the fans are going to panic. I know the media, and I won't say the media people, the talking heads, I should say. They're going to panic. First thing you're hearing already, you want Nick Sirianni fired. That's not going to happen. Not after 2-2, and you don't even have all of your guys, going into Tampa today.
Can I go into the fire Sirianni people? Can I get into that real quick? Because I think, and I hear it. But
it's a panic.
Let's have
move.
this conversation. I get it. 100%. It's a panic move, and it's an easy fix. It makes people. It's like a sugar rush, sugar high. It's going to make you feel good. Sure, you're going to get that buzz like, oh, yeah, we got that guy the hell out of here. The guy who did all that winning and has disappointed us at times. And in his disappointing season went 12-5. It got bounced to the first round, embarrassed by the Tampa Bay Bucks. Oh, my team got sent home. It's easy to turn on the coach and think that immediately the coach leaves and then the players are going to play great. I mean, some of what we're seeing, and OJ and I are on here because you can change some of the scheme things, and we want to get into that. But at the end of the day, y'all, in my opinion, we need these damn receivers to come down with the ball. We need the offensive linemen to be blocking guys. We need Bryce Huff to exist. And that's not happening, and that's why the Eagles, Nick Sirianni didn't mis-scheme this team down 24-0. I'm sorry in my opinion, do you disagree, OJ?
No, I don't disagree at all. And I'll go one step further. Okay, let's just say they fire Sirianni during the break. Okay, what's on the other side of that?
Right.
Who is the head coach? Is it Kellen Moore? Are we sure that Kellen Moore is ready to be a head coach? Is it Vic Fangio, who already has his hands full with the defense, and now you want him to oversee the entire team at 65 years old? So what is on the other side of that? You're not going to bring anybody else in. And again, if you fire, I get it. I understand the frustration with the analytics. I understand frustration with the slow starts. And I'll get to the analytics in a second because that's a bigger issue. That's beyond Nick Sirianni, and I want people to be clear on that, right? But what's on the other side of that? If they do make a panic, and they panicked last year, they panicked with the defensive coordinator last year, and where did that get them? It's very important that
you're exactly right.
The Eagles don't make any
panic.
Thank you
for bringing that up
good
for the
teams,
listeners.
Good franchises do not panic.
And you called that a panic, and you were somewhat alone. It wasn't. People were excited about Desai in some circles about him getting booted up out of there, and you said that was a panic move. You did not like
it was.
That move.
You got to let a rookie defensive coordinator play out the string. Okay, if you're not happy with them, you move on after the end of the year. But they weren't that bad with the side. You got to let it play again. You got to let it play out. Mm-hmm. You know, there were rumors and rumblings that he wasn't a team player, or he may not have been doing things that the organization wanted him to do, which I think is problematic too, which we could also kind of squeeze in there too. But again, what's on the other side of that? If you fire Nick Sirianni, who's the coach, and do we trust that whether it's going to be either the coordinators that they can salvage the season? Because that's literally what you're asking them to do if you fire a coach after 2-2.
And folks aren't, like you said,
you don't salvage.
You're not going to bring somebody in from out of. You're not going to bring people out from outside.
Now, if you're 0-4, if you're 0-4, that's a completely different conversation. It's like, okay, you probably don't even still fire him at this point, but I mean, you got to after the bye to turn this shit around, or you know, you're done. Right. So we expect your resignation week 6 if you were not 2-4 exactly. And we just gotta take a couple of days to calm down. I had the tiki torches out, and again, I get it with Nick. I get it. I totally do. I understand. But again, good teams, good franchises don't panic. And again, we already saw that last year.
Also, back to the players. I think the offensive line was very poor today. I got, for a unit that is absolutely dominant, this did not meet this. Folks talk about the standard. Today, I went through each unit, and I'll probably reference this later. The offensive line was the worst unit in terms of how I graded it on the offense. They got a D-. Let me just do them all now do the offense. For quarterback, I gave him a B. Running back, I gave an A. Wide receivers, I gave a D, slightly worse than the offensive line at D-. Tight end, C+. The offensive line was absolutely horrible, though. I mean, how did they get this turned around? And do you agree with my assessment that they probably dragged down the rest of the team today?
Yeah, the offensive line struggled, but again, that's a testament of being out-coached, out-schemed. Ty Bowles, the scheme, the pressures that he brought, and he didn't even pressure all that much early in the game, right?
Yep.
But if I could answer this in one word, or even one name, Lane. Look at the statistics. Lane Johnson plays for the Philadelphia Eagles, and you look at the statistics when he doesn't play. It's night and day. It's clear cut. There's no gray areas. It's not, to use a political term, you're not playing both sides here.
Yep.
Because you can't. It's clear. Your offensive line is cohesive. They got away with it last week when Lane left with the concussion. But I just think they were already in an offensive rhythm. They weren't scoring points necessarily, but they were already in an offensive rhythm and just, beating themselves, with turnovers and bad coaching, right? But today they just got basically blown off the ball. And how old is Vea?
That dude is
he looked like Jalen Carter did the previous week, right? So that was problematic.
He's a problem.
So I think they'll be fine once they get Lane Johnson back. It was good to see that Cam Jurgens, he did get hurt, but he got back in. But during that time and everything, it was, the game was already lost. And I can't stand this term. But it's more of a basketball term, I guess. But it just seemed like this was almost a scheduled loss.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the team came out flat like that. I mean, and it's easy to Monday morning, at least after you put that on tape, it's easy to ask that question.
Right.
Did you guys mail this game down to Tampa, especially in that 105-degree heat and all that? Y'all just say after 2 touchdowns down at first, all right, damn it. We'll see y'all in Philly.
Yeah, it kind of seemed that way. And that's unfortunate for whatever reason.
In the silver lining category, I got to put Parris Campbell. I think he played well. And Sirianni talked this week about how he gave Parris Campbell a call because Parris Campbell, if you guys weren't tracking this, is a former Indianapolis Colt. No Sirianni from that time. Went over to the Giants, played okay last season. Came over to the Eagles, was expected to take over for that number 3 wide receiver position, but the Eagles went and got Jahan Dotson. Parris Campbell gets cut at the final 53 and gets signed onto the practice squad, or they tried to sign him to the practice squad. Sirianni needed at some point to call Parris Campbell because Parris Campbell said, "Oh no, I don't want to do this." And Nick, using his relationships, one of his core foundational principles for the team, he said, "We're going to need you. We're going to need you." Well, today they needed him. It didn't result in a win, but I think he did play well. He caught all 4 of his targets for 17 yards and a touchdown. That touchdown was a really pro move. First of all, I'll give you the floor to talk about Parris Campbell, and also give me who, if you had to say silver lining of today's game, what would you say that is?
Well, first with Parris Campbell, I do agree with you. He did play well. That's a good sign because they need to figure out who's going to be a contributing wide receiver beyond A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. Whether that's Dotson. I think Dotson had a couple catches today. But this is all out of necessity, by the way. But I thought Campbell played well. I mean, he held on to that touchdown like it was his first child.
Right? I bust out laughing.
Sounds like a scene of the nativity, right? So, he cradled that baby, man, literally, right? But so that was a good move on him. That's a positive, and from being at camp and from all of the notes from camp and everything, he had a pretty decent camp. He was just one of those players where it was just a numbers game.
Numbers, absolutely. It wasn't like he flunked camp,
right? Right. He didn't stand out necessarily, but I just thought he did enough to where a lot of people projected that perhaps he would make the team. So going forward, maybe they'll keep him on a practice squad. Of course, you can't protect everybody on the practice squad, but I think he's probably worth keeping around, right? Because he did show some positivity today. As far as
they're running out of before you get to that, absolutely. Mm-hmm. I think they were using up all of his practice squad call-ups though at this point.
Oh yeah, I think you do have
close to that too.
I think you do have a limit. Yeah. So, yeah.
And because of the way the wide receiver position has played out so far this season, he might just be on the team.
Well, yeah, they may not have a choice at this point, right? So, I always worried about going. We talked about it during the offseason. I was worried about the wide receiver depth.
Yep.
And you see, they already had to get Dotson, trade for Dotson, and I thought they should have kept Zacchaeus. I really did, because
he's playing well in Washington.
Yeah, because he's definitely, I can't even say he's not even worse, but he's better than everybody else they have on the roster, right?
Today, he would have been a more of a threat today than the guys that.
Yeah, absolutely. And as far as the silver lining is concerned, only silver lining I could take from this game is they get all their guys back in 2 weeks. That's the silver lining, because it's really not much positive that you can take out of this game, because again, it's one thing to say they were unprepared, the slow starts, which I think is the biggest indictment of Nick Sirianni.
I agree.
As a head coach.
You got to fire up out of the tunnel, man. There's just so much failure to launch.
And this is just an ongoing. I mean, we talk about Jalen Hurts' turnovers, how that's been an ongoing thing. The slow starts have been an ongoing thing as well.
Absolutely.
You have to do what you can, and I know that falls on the offensive coordinator too. You have to do what you can to get off to a good start. You really do. And somebody made a point too on Twitter last year. Again, this team started 10-1, right? Before everything fell apart. Who was the offensive coordinator during 10-1?
Nick Sirianni, no question about it.
He was, but in position.
Brian Johnson was the person on the website.
But in the position. But
yes,
again, where was most of the community? Where's most of the community? I know what the call. We have good evidence on what the calls may have been and what the interjection was.
Yep.
But again, they were still 10-1, right? And Brian Johnson was the one he talked to the most, whether Nick Sirianni interjected with the plays or not.
Yep.
Brian Johnson was there. He was in the room.
Yep.
I know they weren't in the room not talking, right?
Yep.
So
absolutely.
Maybe figuring things out. Offensive coordinator is more than just calling plays, right?
Absolutely.
So,
scheme, concepts, recognizing concepts from other teams.
That's my point. That's my point with he and Brian Johnson, which again, I thought he received the raw deal.
Oh yeah.
So,
and folks, go back and listen a few episodes ago. OJ went into this pretty
and the ESPN reporting supported that early in, I believe, was August. But there's no silver lining except for they come back in 2 weeks and they get Devontae back, they get AJ back, and you can see AJ, man, you can see him like fuming on the sidelines how bad he wanted to be in there. So,
so you call Parris a bronze lining?
I think that's fair. Yeah, I'll go with bronze. He's on the podium. Listen, man, it
was that rough today, huh, OJ?
You work all your life for the Olympics, and sometimes you just want to get on the podium.
Hell yeah.
So,
I'll take that bronze.
There you go. Depending on what country you're from, but
So this week the Eagles, these 2 weeks the Eagles have a bye, of course. Do you think that they use this time to try to reshuffle the deck and try to use this as like a trade, interim trade deadline, or you think that they really try to stand pat and try to double down on what's in the room and try to cook a better meal with the ingredients they already have?
Well, this goes back to my previous point, Matt, that it's just important that they don't panic, right? I think you should reshuffle the deck, kind of reevaluate what your schemes are, what your philosophies are. You do have the time to do that because they come back, and I believe the game is it's Sunday. Is it Sunday or Monday night?
Sunday.
Okay, it's Sunday.
Sunday. Yeah.
Okay, so it is Sunday.
It's a 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock Sunday.
1 o'clock game. So they have a fresh full 2 weeks to just kind of reevaluate. And normally I know they have to get these guys a few days off, but the coaches probably won't have as much time off as they wanted to, or as they might have been looking forward to, right? So these guys got to be in a lab. They have to kind of again, keeping in mind that it's 2-2, not 1-3, not 0-4, right? Keep that in mind because again,
it could be 3-1 if they don't. If Slay doesn't get cooked on that and make that bad. I don't want to say he got cooked. He tried to make a play and made the wrong play. And they gave that one.
They could be 3-1 without the analytics. So again, it's a number of things, right? But yeah, I think I don't know if they could. I don't know if they should do a trade. I threw Reddick out there and all. And how he's always on the phone, right? So I believe he'll make a move or two, or just try to shuffle a couple things around. But I just think that they just have to find out what their identity is offensively. And that may, at this point, I think they just need to decide to run the offense through Saquon Barkley. I talked to him before the season started. This guy wants the ball. He wants it. He wants it. I know he'll wave every now and then to, get a breather after the long run, but he wants to carry the load. He's eager to carry the load. He is absolutely thrilled to be in Philadelphia. So he wants it. I just think they have to do a better job of feeding the offense through him. And defensively, what do you have? I think Vic Fangio has been up front. He has been transparent for the most part, but as an organization, they have to see what they have on defense. And how do you get Sweat? How do you get Bryce Huff free to get some sacks? If that's who you're going to roll with for the rest of this year, okay, you have to scheme to get these guys free. I know last week against the Saints, they tried a couple stunts with Carter and Davis, and them guys got home with it. It was pretty savvy. But, of course, you can't do that, every play, and you can't do that every week, depending on who your opponents are. But he has to figure out something because it's going to be a long season defensively, and they just can't keep playing from behind. And that does put a lot of pressure, whether people want to believe this or not, that does put a lot of pressure on the offense to be perfect.
Yep.
Because it really narrows the margin of error when you're already down. And the Eagles are not, philosophically, the franchise is not built that way. That's not how Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman wants to play ball. They want the offense to get ahead early, and then have teams chase them where the defense can pin their ears back and go after the quarterback.
Yep.
So they just have to see what they have to identify what they have this first month of the season. And it's everybody. I find it funny that everybody was complaining about the bye when the schedule came out, and this bye couldn't come soon enough.
Oh, absolutely. Perfect time for it. You almost certainly, I would say almost certainly get AJ back. You get Lane back. You get Devontae back.
They'll be back. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, it really couldn't come at a bit. And then mentally,
I actually thought AJ could have played today, but I think maybe they took into account
wanted to be 100%
and the hamstring, and
you
want to cramp up in your leg, and you're already coming off a hamstring and everything. I think if the weather conditions were more ideal, AJ probably could have played today.
And to be honest, every team that the Eagles have played so far, not to make excuses, because that's not what this show is for. It's not what I spend my time doing. But every team the Eagles played will be in that box, like that Kornacki box at the end of the season when they're going to be in that play. Each of these teams are playoff caliber teams. So you got to see the Eagles down players, all of that against playoff level competition. These aren't scrubs. They've gone 2-2 against.
Yeah, you're right about that.
So the show's called Honorable Mention, so I gotta give a shout out to I said Isaiah Rodgers. This is the opportunity for Isaiah. Others weren't as enthusiastic. He blocked the extra point, and Keely Ringo took it to the house.
You mean after he blocked the defender into Cooper DeJean?
He did.
But
he did do that.
Himself. He did redeem himself with that shows his athleticism. He showed a lot of that in training camp. That's why I thought he might have been the starter, but rightfully so. Quinyon Mitchell, let's go back to silver lining.
Yeah.
Let's go back to Quinyon Mitchell. I thought for the most part he did a great job against Mike Evans. Toe to toe, especially that isolation in the end zone.
Yes.
Broke up the pass.
Yep.
Eagles got a good one with that. They got a good one with Mitchell.
And he seems like he has the right demeanor. The early takes on him, it seemed like he was a bit shy, and it made you thought maybe he was demure, maybe a little afraid of the.
Well, he wasn't shy in training camp. If you talk to all the players, he wasn't shy in camp. No. So I mean, he got in AJ's face, got in Devontae's face, trash talking, everything. But you know, and it is kind of tough to navigate as a rookie to kind of say, okay, you're gonna keep your head down and just play and all, but he's the real deal, man. And you know, you don't, short of somebody like Jefferson or someone of that caliber, Mike Evans is a great test, and I thought he held up well considering how the game went,
especially from a perspective, because I think I'm glad you brought this up, because from the perspective of the matchup, it's just like fights, boxing matches are, about the matchup. Football games are about a matchup. And then the matchup inside of a matchup, like a Quinyon versus a Mike Evans, he's going to be a different cover than a Justin Jefferson or a Tyreek Hill.
Absolutely.
And it was good to get to see him match up against one of these. You can truly say Mike Evans is a great big wide receiver. And so it was good
Future
for
Hall
him
of
to
Famer
get that under his belt.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think I believe that he has the most consecutive 1,000-yard seasons. I think he started his career now with like 9 straight or something like that.
Right. So that's pretty much going to get you in the Hall of Fame, at least eventually. Yeah. So
you're going to be on some lists too with that.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. But Quinyon Mitchell, that's the silver lining. That's the honorable mention, and I think he's well deserving. And it's going to be interesting to see in a couple of years who's going to play on the other side of him. But if you had to look at somebody on the defense, he's really a bright spot and very encouraging. And I think fans should feel the same.
Absolutely. If you had to say, after losses like today, we already talked about this. People want to fire coaches. It always feels like a sugar high. But if you had to say, you got to pick one, was today's loss more on the X's and O's, or was it on the Joes?
That's hard, Matt. Well, first of all, when you're going back to say you want to fire coaches, Philadelphia, we are the type, and I was telling this to a friend a couple weeks ago. Philadelphia is a type of town to where something goes wrong, no matter the sport, there's a loss.
Yeah,
you have to get an arrest, a confession, and a conviction. First of all, you have to point out the villain, you have to point out the culprit, and then you have to get the conviction.
Yes. Yes.
No matter what. Even though there's a lot
rush
of
to judgment. A lot of rush to judgment.
A lot of rush to judgment. Despite what the evidence might tell you.
Inconclusive evidence. Shoddy evidence.
Forget any technicalities, right? But
no due process.
No due process. Even though I think Nick probably has used all of his due process.
He's getting there. He's on his way.
But it's supposed to be for each each charge, right? You're supposed to get a due process for each charge, I guess. But anyway, it's hard because it's almost like equal blame. Okay, how much do you blame poor tackling on coaching?
Right. That's the philosophical argument.
Yeah, I know they go over it. I seen them do it in practice, right?
But they're tackling like a tire or something like that, like these stationary things that aren't going to wiggle and shake them out of their shoes.
Well, I really would like to, I only get to see the Eagles practice. And there's again, this goes into like analytics and the sports science and all. I don't know how well, I think we do know how the Kansas City Chiefs practice because Andy Reid, the way the current CBA is of, how much you can practice, how much you can be in pads. I know Andy Reid, knowing him from his days at Lehigh, he's going to push all that to the brink because he's just old school, because maybe he's not a great example. But this new age, the new coaches of Nick Sirianni's generation, how else do these teams and these franchises practice within the rules? How can you simulate tackling if you're only tackling tires? Right. You're only tackling, you're only doing blocking sleds and stuff. So I don't know how you correct that in this day and age, because I mean some guys just tackle, man. They seem to have it under wraps against the Saints, but it seems like an anomaly, right? And then there's coaching. You can point to not having your team ready, the slow starts on both sides of the ball. You can point to the analytics. And this is the point I wanted to make with analytics. The Eagles are heavily invested in analytics as a franchise, as an organization. They have an analytics department. They have people they pay for analytics to tell their coaches, okay, what is the best scenarios to do in this situation. So that's another thing when I get back to, if you do fire Nick Sirianni and either Kellen Moore or Vic Fangio as the coach, the analytics aren't going to go away.
Exactly.
They're not going to go away. I mean, you can criticize Nick on how he navigates through those analytics, but it's not going to go away.
And that's why I like the going for it on fourth. Some of these things, they're not Nick Sirianni. Now, Nick Sirianni believes in them. I'm not saying he's, he's
you got to be on board with it.
He's on board, but that started under Doug. That first year.
Well, that's one of the reasons why Doug is not here. I know he has his own problems now in Jacksonville being 0-4, but that's one of the reasons why he's not here. He got tired of being told what to do, essentially.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely. Yeah, that first year before they won the Super Bowl, that 2016 year, they just started doing it just because they had nothing to lose and they were trying to build culture, and it carried over as an organizational principle. So that fourth down stuff, that's that you may get mad about Sirianni because he's doing that, but it might not be Sirianni who's doing that. Just use the logical.
I mean, they could, they could have it out and say, okay, he didn't navigate it well, right? But it's not going to go away. I mean, I'm thinking about a scenario where it's 4th and 3 at the 23-yard line, at the opponent's 23-yard line, and you're asking Vic Fangio to go over the analytics. I'm trying to think of that scenario.
Hilarious.
It's like, okay, how much do we know in baseball with the Phillies? How much does Rob Townsend, a 60-year old school manager, how much does he believe in analytics, right? So
yeah, I mean, I feel like he goes with his gut a lot. I mean,
yeah, old school guys go with their gut a lot, and a lot of people don't like that. But then again, a few years ago, you had the total opposite, which was Gabe Kapler. and
Yep.
nobody liked
That was
his
ridiculous.
new age hipster Northern Liberties philosophy.
He would do a totally
of
different
management.
lineup every like it would be 1 through 9. Like you wouldn't even be in the same. If you did start yesterday, you're batting 8th. And you batted 4th yesterday. It was crazy.
Yeah, you never want that because baseball players are so superstitious and so tied to a routine. They always want to know where they roll. They always want to know where they want to be night in and night out. But I digress. But yeah, it's
so you're leaning more towards coaches.
It's partly coaching. Well,
it doesn't have to be one or the other, but which one would you say majority? If I could fix one today, if I could say I got Hall of Fame level X.
Okay. I would lean to the coaching, especially with the slow starts. Putting your team behind the 8 ball. They come out this afternoon and you're already down 7-0, and there's 3 throws.
Mm-hmm.
I know what Tampa Bay, I know what Ty Bowles is throwing at you, all types of looks and everything. I mean, you got a cannon in Saquon Barkley. You saw that he almost broke.
That's right. That's
later
right.
on in the game. So you run him until you can, then you be forced to run. Don't force yourself. Then you're forced to pass. Don't force yourself to have to pass. Let them force you to have to pass. Well, not even that. Let them force you to be one-dimensional is what I want to say.
It's driving me crazy to what it's like guys didn't watch what Saquon did in New York. Sure, if you were so committed to throwing the damn ball 40 times a game, fine. But Saquon can do that. So you can throw your little 3-yard hooks. Short.
That's another philosophy that they have as a franchise. Explosive plays. If you haven't heard Nick,
makes 2 guys miss and he's gone. That's an explosive play. If he runs 20 yards after
Saquon is now your explosive play.
People.
But when they say explosive plays, they mean throwing the ball down the vertical game. That's what they mean.
And no, you see, because that's not explosive. 2nd and 10 after 1st and 10, that's not explosive. That's watching the ball in the air, watching fans.
Well, to kind of take a thought of George Carlin's comedy, it is explosive the way if you can look at it that way. It is explosive on the opposite.
Yes.
So it is an explosive play. Go boom, right? As he said with 2 airplanes, they nearly collided. It's a near miss. It's a near hit. A collision is a near miss.
Yes, explosive in the way we don't want them. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
and what they said when you throw the football, there's the old philosophy of football. I mean, and it's true. When 2 things can happen when you pass. 3 things can happen when you pass, and 2 of them are bad.
Pick, incompletion, completion.
Yep. But there are some plays where you accept an incompletion.
Mm-hmm. So post-bye, the Eagles play the Browns at home, the Giants away, the Bengals away, the Jaguars at home on Sunday Night Football. After starting 2-2, what do you think the Eagles' record will be heading to Dallas on November 10th?
That's a pretty favorable schedule, actually. I mean, you talk about a bye coming at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
If they can handle Myles Garrett, who's at Cleveland, I think it's 1-3 now.
Yep.
If they can handle Cleveland, we can't assume, right? But the Giants aren't going to score a lot of points.
No, they're garbage. Come on, people.
unless you allow Daniel Jones to run around all day. And then what did you say? Then they have the Jaguars at the So
Jaguars at home. They on Sunday Night Football, and they play the Bengals. They play the Bengals in Cincinnati before they play the Jaguars.
So Bengals might be the toughest game.
Yeah,
might be the toughest game. That's a game I thought they would be able to handle, but that'll be a tough one. But you get the Browns, you get the Giants, the lowly Jaguars. We might be looking at 5-2 going into Cincinnati. And
Cincinnati's before the Jaguars, so you might be 4-3, and then trying to get to 5-3.
Trying to get to 5-3, yeah. But I think that Bengals game is going to be a little tough.
Yeah,
but
because they're going to be hungry. They're almost dead now. They
got to win today, but we had to play it week by week. I really have to see how they go against the. I think they're going to come back and beat the Browns.
Okay.
I don't know how clean it's going to be. I don't know how good it's going to be, but I think they'll come back and beat the Browns. And
got to get the Giants, right?
Yeah, then you got to get the Giants,
game,
right?
But you got to beat the Giants.
Yeah, you got to.
This is a serious football team. Come on, they got to beat.
Yeah, you got to get the. Yeah, they should beat the Browns. You got to get the Giants, and then you see what you have going to Cincinnati.
You go to Cincinnati and you get that win. This team could be looking at 6-2. Because I'm not trying to just speak facts. Trevor Lawrence is not what Trevor Lawrence was supposed to be. I feel confident. I know what I'm seeing. I know what I see.
I know they're fine. I know they're regretting that contract though.
Ooh.
you're again, the way the market is, you're almost forced to do it. But listen, you looking at these quarterbacks in college now.
The thing is, you get locked into one.
Can you imagine what year is Milroe?
Let me see.
So potentially, let's just say potentially, if Milroe's eligible, Sanders is eligible. Can you imagine him in Jacksonville? Can you imagine Milroe in Jacksonville in the next couple
Milroe's
years?
Coming out this year.
Yeah,
I think he's coming out this year. Because he's gonna win the Heisman. I would cash out now.
Yeah, I would. If Jacksonville continues on this trek, that's a guy who I have on my radar to eventually replace Lawrence, and maybe have Milroe sit for a year, and let Lawrence be a bit of a sacrificial lamb. Let him go to Ryan Minshew.
Ooh. Wow. Yeah, do like a Carson Wentz, Jalen Hurts, Carson Wentz kind of thing, huh? You just draft him. See, you won't be able to get him in the second. You're not going to be able to get Milroe in the second the way
not at all. Not at all.
You're going to be at the very top.
Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, you would think they get these next 3 games, but no guarantee. When you start off 500, that means you can beat anybody. You can also lose anybody. So, but again, it's just important that they don't panic. And I want to say one thing about Jalen. Yes, safe to say he's a turnover machine. He's good for a turnover every week. And you and I, we debate. We kind of dissect the turnovers, right?
Yeah.
The pass last week to Devontae Smith.
Yep. I say that wasn't his fault. I say that pick was not his fault.
Yeah. And I was more on him for the fumble. So
me too.
I take the fumble last week.
Yep.
Against the Saints versus the fumble this week. I thought that was totally on him. You're at that point, you're moving in the pocket and you're thinking about running. So therefore, you definitely have to protect the ball.
Yes. Last week against New Orleans. Yes. Right. I put that one on.
Now today.
Yes.
That was a tough, disappointing turnover.
Yeah.
But I will say He went back to pass. Okay, he evaded David the first time. Okay, and he did have a blocker right there. I forget who was blocking there.
Becton was getting whooped on today.
It was Becton. You know, he evaded David, and Becton was still back there, and David came back up from behind as Jalen was trying to throw. There's no people are saying, "Oh, yeah, you gotta have a better." There's no way he could have saw that.
Yeah,
there's no
because he already evaded one. He was trying to let it go quickly,
right? And then there's another thing too. Here's another dilemma with Jalen Hurts. Right, 1 week is he don't have his speed. He can't run no more. He's not explosive run anymore.
Yep.
Then next week, okay, he has to stay in the pocket. He got to stay in there. Oh, he's always running to his right. He's always leaving too early.
Yep.
Man, do y'all want the MF to stay in the pocket, or do you not?
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
So, what's it going to be? Do y'all want to be a pocket passer, or do you want him to run? Do you want him to be a dual threat, which got him the extension, got him to be the franchise quarterback? What's the dilemma? And again, this is in addition to the turnovers, because some of that contributes to such. He wasn't turning the ball over as much when he was running more and being more explosive. So again, does that come back to coaching?
Yeah.
Because what we heard at the beginning of the last year, when people were saying, "Oh yeah, he looks hurt," or he don't want to run no more, that was a mandate from
up top. Mm-hmm.
That tended to be a mandate from up top.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So again, that's coaching. So
yeah, he's being required to play a certain way.
His first year as a starter, his Super Bowl season, he was running around more. So
until Chicago, until that hit in Chicago.
But again, you can't have that spook you as an organization, as a franchise.
Yep.
And that was a freak hit.
Yep.
You just can't have one thing spook you. Now, if that was an ongoing thing where he was always getting hit like that, you're going to get hit, right? But that was a fluky thing where got him and drove him into the ground. He normally doesn't get hit like that.
Yeah.
Right. And when he's in the open field, he usually just bowls people over because he's that strong. So,
or he's smart about it. He knows how to take the hit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of the dilemma too. Okay. How do the Eagles want him to play quarterback?
Mm-hmm.
Because I thought last year they asked him to do too much, again, with the explosive plays and all of that. I really would love to know. We're not going to know, but I really would love to know what are they really asking him to do? And people were bringing up the hero ball and everything. Are they asking him to play hero ball? I think that's a plausible question.
Yep.
As you're looking for the big play, are you looking to, stay aggressive? And as Brian Baldinger alluded to in his film study last week. I think those are all legitimate questions when we try to figure out what's wrong with Jalen Hurts for all the turnovers and the poor decision making and all that. I don't think it's a monolith to where to say, okay, we can go in an absolute one way or another way.
Yeah, and
that's what I want to try to find out as a journalist.
So, Saquon gets 10 carries on the day. I get that the Tampa Bay jumped out on you. Saquon can't get,
but again, it goes back to the
when
start.
You're down 7-0.
It goes back to the start. You're down 7-0. Again, are you panicking?
Can I get a carry?
Yeah, are you panicking? Yeah, still run your offense if that is your offense. Still run your offense, and again, try to, instead of the opposition dictating to you, you try to dictate to the offense. We're still on. It's 7-0. 7-0 is nothing in the NFL.
Or 14.
First drives. Yeah.
After, let's say they boom, they get to 14. Does Saquon get a carry now? Can we slow this train down? Can we chip away, get a couple of first downs? Can we throw a screen pass to Saquon? Or you're down 21-0. We're down 21-0. We still got to get the ball to our best player. Arguably our best player. Now, Jalen Hurts, I believe, at his best is still the team's best player, but he doesn't have the tools to be the team's best player today.
Yeah, but other than, you don't have A.J. Brown, you don't have Devontae Smith. Clearly your best player. Your best non-quarterback on that field is Saquon Barkley by far. And then maybe you throw Goddard in there and everything. Well, I think Goddard has, other than that drop, I think that was a momentum killer too.
Oh,
that drop.
Totally different football game if he doesn't drop that pass.
Perhaps. And they may get on the board. That was the first drive.
The first,
second drive. Okay, I can't remember. Either way.
Second drive, I think. Because I think it was a quick 3 and out the first time.
Yeah, so that second drive, right? So you at least, perhaps get 3 there. Who knows? But it's this is all stuff they got to figure out in these 2 weeks. That to make a synopsis, it's all stuff they have to figure out in 2 weeks. I think the offense will be fine once they get everybody back because they're that talented. They again, other than the opening game, they have not scored a lot of points. So that's a bit of an assumption that everything will be fine, but I still think they will because, again, they'll have 2 weeks to figure it out. But I'm not sure what they can do defensively where things will look monumentally different.
It was 14. I checked the notes. It was when the Eagles were down 14-0. It was the first down play. Dallas Goedert drop.
Yeah,
was a killer.
Yeah, momentum.
Because he would have gotten at least 20 on that, and he could have run quite a bit.
Yep, similar to what you saw last week. But yeah, I just really don't know what they can do defensively. The offense as a whole is way too talented when you clearly see all of the parts, all the sum of all the parts, especially. But defense, who's going to make a play from week to week?
Yeah,
you shouldn't have to go into a game wondering if these guys are going to tackle, if you're going to have a pass rush. And if you lack those things, you better have somebody in the interior, or I would say as far as linebackers, or you better have somebody in the secondary who can make plays consistently.
Dean, you almost made it out of the show without me pointing it out, and blame OJ because Nakobe Dean until today has had a great season, and today he got an F.
Yeah,
Nakobe Dean probably out of everybody who got significant.
He had
the worst day of anybody.
Yeah, he had a rough game, and he had been a pretty short tackler up until this point.
Absolutely.
But yeah, they had him all off balance with the screens, and then with the quick passes, and they just didn't seem ready for all of that. But that just an overall disappointing performance, and Dean is really like the ringleader of what you saw today. So
yep. It's a copy and paste league. So the good news is, silver lining, bronze lining, probably dookie lining. If the team doesn't want to pick it up in terms of defense, it's a copy and paste league. And so what y'all saw today, those plays, I guarantee y'all, we're going to see them again, and y'all are going to get chance. Any players who are listening, you're gonna get a chance to stop them, because if once I see blood in the water or sense blood in the water, why would I run a different play? I'm going to show Dean that same action, and if you don't stop, that's what we saw a whole lot of after the Niners showed the playbook on the Eagles last year. You saw the same plays,
and you just hope that Houston Deshaun Watson isn't resurrected in Cleveland.
Ooh.
Because he did not look that good against the Raiders.
No, I think he's cooked. But maybe, but leave it up to the Philadelphia Eagles defense to resurrect one.
Yeah.
Well, OJ, it's always great having you on. Like I said, every time we have you on, we always know how to go to the different topics and things like that. I think the listeners really enjoy having you on. Thank you so much for making time. What are you working on this week that we should look forward to?
Well, I had a nice Eagles preview trying to set it up for our latest edition in the Tribune, but I did work on a piece. If anybody hasn't seen it, it's a documentary on Prime Video, Evolution of the Black Quarterback. It is a brilliant 3-part series hosted by Michael Vick. He talks to everybody from the beginning to the end. Starts off with a conversation with he and Jalen Hurts. McNabb's in there. And, of course, he talks to the old guys, Doug Williams, Warren Moon, James Shaq Harris, who kind of started it all, in the early 70s, coming out of Grambling, and Doug Williams as well, first black quarterback to win the Super Bowl. So I give a brief summary about that. And, of course, they get into, the evolution of the black quarterback, Steve McNair, and even like Randall Cunningham, of course, nowadays, with Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, all those guys. So it's just really, really a good documentary, which was hosted by Michael Vick. He and his wife were the executive producers, along with Michael Strahan. So I recommend everybody to check that out. Check out the article first, but then check out the documentary.
Well, thank you all so much for listening. Check that out, and please go subscribe and like. This is how this stuff gets out there. If you've listened this far, obviously you like what you heard, so go ahead and subscribe so you get the next time. I'll, of course, have OJ on in the future. Thank you for making time, OJ.
Thank you, Matt. Always a pleasure.
Yeah, again, the only thing that you talk about there is, when you are moving in the pocket, as far as just the ball security, when you are moving in the pocket, to have two hands on the ball in the pocket. But when you're sitting here and you're about to throw it like this, and somebody come hit you from behind, there's really not, again, you talk about the rhythm of the throw, things like that, trying to get it out in time. Guys have to win down the field when that happens. But yeah, it's hard. The quarterback, again, will get the sack if he's here like this, and the guy can, but there's many things that go into it.